Okay, I'm Jadi and let's speak about graphical desktops in the Linux world. In the previous section, I showed you how the graphical desktop stack works. We have the hardware, the kernel, the display manager works here, which was X or Wayland, and on top of it, we had our Windows manager, which manages Windows very basically, or desktop managers, which contain a window manager inside it, for example, Kvin, and on a higher level, it has some tools. For example, it adds one toolbar at the bottom of the page. It adds some, let me draw it a little bit larger. It adds some icons here. If you click them, some program runs. Or it has a network manager here, a notification center here, which when you click, it opens up and shows you the notifications. Or a trash can, which is very important. Or softwares, like for example, a text editor, email client on the case of GNOME, or whatever you need. General desktop management. And the desktop comes from a metaphor of a desktop. You have folders, you have different tools there, and you do your daily job on your desktop. The weight is 1, so let's go and see. Awareness of major desktop environments, awareness of protocols to access remote desktop sessions. Awareness in both cases. We have 3 major desktops: KDE, GNOME, and XFCE. The protocol, these speak with the display manager is X11, which we covered. And we have something which is called XDMCP, X Display Manager Control Protocol. I read it from here. X Display Manager Control Protocol. This is a program which lets you log into your system in a graphical way. Okay, you had the hardware, you had the kernel, you had the X, and you have your desktop here. Let it be KDE, GNOME, or XFCE. Here you need to log in. There is a program here which works with this XDMCP protocol and lets you log in. It just shows you a login page. We'll check your credentials. If done, it loads your desktop environment. This can be different programs. A very general one is called XDM, X Display Manager. For GNOME, we have a GDM. For KDE, we have SSDM, we have LightDM, and different programs. But it's enough to know that this protocol, X Display Manager Control Protocol, handles your login in the graphical world. When you log in, you will see a graphical environment. We have 3 major graphical environments. 3 major desktop managers is a better word, because we have lots of graphical environments like i3, which only manages Windows and it itself manages Windows for you. You don't need to put your Windows, change the size, and this kind of stuff. If you want, I have a video. You try search for i3 in my videos and watch it. It's a new concept. It's a different concept, tiling window managers. Anyway, let's talk about GNOME or GNOME. This is not the oldest one, but this is the one which most Linux distributions use. It started in 1999, and focuses on productivity and accessibility. We'll talk about accessibility later on the next chapter, and used by most GNU Linux distros. Here I have a Fedora, latest Fedora. It uses GNOME. You can see why they call this is focused on the productivity. No eye candies, no configurations, blinkings, does not shows weather, nothing. You can go to activities. Here you can run any program you want, say terminal. Or easier, you can just press the Windows button. Let's call it Meta. And you can search for whatever you want. For example, I say folders. It says, okay, files program here. I will show you the folders you want. Very simple, elegant, nothing extra, although you can use plugins to add more and more and more to it. Here you have the calendar if you have any notifications. You have some configurations here for network, different things. For me, GNOME is the most go-to thing if I want everything to just work. It's very straightforward. It's very robust nowadays. And most distros use it because of these two aspects. Another one is the KDE project. Cool fact is that KDE, the K stands for cool. At version 5, 2016, it rebranded itself to KDE Plasma. Started before GNOME. It's highly customizable. If you check the configurations, it has lots and lots of configurations for different things. Small things can be configured. And if I'm in KDE, I'm spending part of my day configuring different things and changing configurations. It's used during the Mars mission in NASA. Also, CERN uses KDE. I also like it. To be honest, GNOME doesn't say where GNOME is used because GNOME is used everywhere. Anyway, I have a Kubuntu here. It uses KDE. You know the Ubuntu distro. By default, it's by GNOME. So some people add Kubuntu to it, KDE to it and call it Kubuntu. Some people add XFCE to it and call it Xubuntu. We'll see XFCE in a minute. This is KDE, more traditional toolbar. You can run your programs here. Unfortunately, I'm running it in a very, very slow virtual machine now. You can go to the system settings and we will watch the system setting when it is loaded. Next option is XFCE. Give me a minute. These are the configurations. I have to emphasize that you can change most of these things. You can move this toolbar to the top. You can remove this toolbar. This is the configuration of the latest Kubuntu. You can change the themes. The theme will change how the icons will look, how are the colors, how the changing the windows will look with Alt and Tab and these kind of stuff. For people coming from the Windows world, it's difficult to differentiate between things like GNOME and KDE. The reason is, in the Windows world, we have only one desktop manager. Same with Mac. You only have one desktop manager. Installing anything other than the default one is very hacky and very geek. But when we are telling we have GNOME and KDE, practically we are telling we have different styles of programming. The end result might look the same if you configure them to look the same. But for example, GNOME has its own toolkit to write programs. If you want to write a program and give it some tabs and a button and a toolbar here, you can use GTK toolkit to write it. If you are working with KDE, we have the Qt, and you can do the same thing, but it will look like a KDE. These are completely different ideas, different works. So these are not themes. These are desktop managers with lots of other tools, editors, email clients, and stuff. As I told you, there are lots and lots of configurations in the KDE. Each section has lots of tabs, how the KWin, the window manager part of this desktop manager, will work, and other things. I also use KDE a lot because it's cool. And we have XFCE. I don't have a sample for XFCE, but the project started at the same time with GNOME. 1999, and it focuses on being lightweight, does not uses lots of resources for its fancy things. You have a desktop to do something else. You are not using your desktop as your daily program. You have desktop to run something else. So XFCE says, okay, I am very lightweight. I'm not using your computer's resources much. They are reserved for the programs you are going to use. But I am beautiful enough configurations, and it is modular. So also XFCE is one of the choices that I always use. You saw, I said all three are my choices because I switch a lot. You can install any of these or any of your distros. Although sometimes it may become a little bit ugly and problematic because, for example, some theme may be used from other desktop and this kind of stuff. But do experiment and learn things. These were the three main desktop environments we had to talk about. But let's go for remote connections in the Linux world. The first remote connection I'm telling you is X forwarding. Fascinatingly, this is not part of LPIC, but this is super useful. As I've told you, X is a network protocol. So when you are connecting to your graphical program, it talks with your X using a network layer. But it is like this. Like this. On your own machine, display 0. So your program shows it here. You saw that this is saved in the display environment variable. So you can easily connect to another machine using SSH, run a graphical program here, and the X will be automatically forwarded to your machine if you use SSH-uppercase X. So you are on this machine, it runs X, you open a terminal, SSH to another computer via -X. This is the IP address of another computer. You are connected here. If you have the X11 forwarding yes in your etc SSH SSHD config and restarted the SSHD service after doing this configuration, whatever you run here, which is graphical, for example, XIs, the results will be shown here. This is very useful in different cases. For example, you have a remote machine which is very strong and your lab in your university, and you want to run your heavy CPU usage program there. So you just connect from your home there and run your programs there and see the results here, interact with them using your mouse or your keyboard, and everything is done on this CPU, but the graphics are forwarded here. But we also have remote connections, remote desktops, which are more complete. You are completely seeing this desktop from a remote machine. Why you may need this in different situations. I used to have a manager which forbid us from bringing our laptops to the useless meetings. What we did was installed a remote desktop here on my laptop, left my laptop on my desk, went and sat on my chair here with my tablet in my hand. No, tablet was in this way. And I had the remote connection to this machine from here. So I was still working with my computer. Another reason is we had a situation, we had to go to a very remote area inside a very restricted server room after showing our ID, authentication, filling forms why we are here and everything. And we had 30 minutes to work on that specific server. My colleague just hid one laptop in the rack and ran remote desktop there. Then we came home, and from here you were able to connect to this and do whatever you wanted. Don't do this. Never. This is illegal. Or other reasons. Sometimes I'm a potato coach. Yes. In front of the TV, and I'm watching TV here, and I'm doing something on my laptop, even my laptop, not the desktop. I have a remote connection to my laptop from my phone, check it time to time to see if it's finished or not. Another reason. Anyway, for different reasons, you can have X forwarding, you saw. We have 3 other protocols to cover just as an awareness. First one is VNC, Virtual Network Computer. This is a very old one, but still being used. It works on port 5900 plus DisplayPort. So generally it would be this. This is unsecure. Even I believe, if I'm not wrong, the password should be saved in a text file when it works. But the good point is it runs in most systems. You have clients everywhere. And that's why if I want to connect to something, VNC would be my first guess if it has a remote connection. Another protocol is a SPICE, Simple Protocol for Independent Computing Environment. It started as a closed source project in a commercial company. But after a while in 2008, Red Hat bought that company, made the system open source. It's being used in the KVM virtual machines, a very common virtual machine system. So if you have a server which runs on a KVM, you can use SPICE to connect to it. There are different implementations, even GNOME boxes has the SPICE protocol, but the server is not very widespread. The good point is it's very, very well written, uses very small amount of CPU when being run, and also it's very fast. You can even stream and watch videos over SPICE and it works. Something which is more common is RDP. Softwares like XRDP, if you run them on your server, you can connect remotely. When I server, I mean the desktop machine, which is being used as your remote desktop server. You can use XRDP and connect to it to whatever client you have. There are lots and lots of free and open RDP protocols for your Android, for Windows, for Mac, for Linux. So this is what, if I want to configure something somewhere, I would use this one. 3389 is the port and traffic is encrypted by default. I have to emphasize that remote desktop is very dangerous. One of the very, very common ways of hacking system is searching the internet for these ports and connecting to them via remote desktop and guessing password if needed. Sometimes there is not even, the password is not even needed. So people can just connect to your computer and do whatever. Keep safe and have fun. Let's go to the next section, last part of 106.